Jess Hilarious' transphobia doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists as a dark-skinned Black woman who's constantly having her femininity put on trial, constantly being masculinized because she doesn't understand. You know what I mean? The larger she is, instead of being mad at this larger system or getting it, she's mad at trans women who she thinks are the reason this is harder for me.
It feeds the narrative that quote-unquote Black women cannot get along. So what Charlamagne did was actually create a hostile work environment.
I love it all. I hear it all. But no. Jess Hilarious is just as bad as Charlamagne. Before she got on the show,
I think the actual conversation is about Charlamagne, DJ Envy, Joe Budden. These are not journalists. These are not journalists. These are mics.
Approaching the topic of them not being a reputable source for news, for reliable information. Why do y'all watch?
Why do sports people watch Stephen A. Smith? Stephen A. Smith, people watch it because they like to see the crash out. They like hot takes. They get bored.
Hello, beautiful Black people.
What's up? How you doing?
Let me tell you why I've gathered you here today. We're actually a couple of weeks late, but I feel like, it's always a timely discussion. We can make it timely. There's been a lot of Breakfast Club drama that's been being aired out for us all to see, and it's, it's taken the form of this debate online, very Jess Hilarious versus Loren Lorosa, and I think people are missing a bigger picture. And I want to say, let me preface this by saying that I know our side of the aisle, people hate Jess for good reason, right? Like she's made a series of transphobic comments. She's made other prejudice comments. I remember during the pandemic, she's done a lot of things that people don't like.
When she was on the plane and the person had their head wrapped and she made this whole scene and live streamed it and said she doesn't feel safe. I'll never forget that one.
Thing.
Yeah, like she's done a lot of things that I think are worthy of
Jess
critique.
is well known to me. Yes. Well known to me.
So Jess has done a lot of things that are worthy of critique, and I have critiqued Jess Hilarious a lot. I've critiqued Jess Hilarious and been shitted on by the transphobic Avengers on the internet that rally for her whenever you criticize the transphobia. But I'm not necessarily someone who I don't hate Jess Hilarious, and I'm also not someone who says she's untalented. I know that's a popular opinion now, but I'm I've seen kind of the rise of Jess's social media career. I've also seen her on TV shows. I'm when she was on Couples Retreat on VH1 or something, she was the only funny person there. So I don't think she's untalented, but I do think she is worthy of a lot of the critiques that are made on her transphobia and whatnot. That being said, I think what's happening here on the Breakfast Club is just a clear misogyny and sexism in just right there in plain view. But there are so many characters that people have strong feelings about that I don't think that discussion is getting had, because the short summary before I just pass it off to anybody for the backstory is this. The Breakfast Club originally had Charlamagne, DJ Envy, and Angela Yee on there for many, many years. Angela Yee left the show and they did a nationwide search, so I'm saying, and they hired Jess Hilarious to do the spot. Jess Hilarious.
Nationwide search.
Look,
I did say, so what I'm saying. So what I'm saying. They had been rotating hosts and stuff for a long time, whatever, but I think it's very clear they knew who they wanted, which is fine. To the character what the Breakfast Club is, it makes sense why they would have chosen Jess Hilarious. So she gets there. And I think to be fair, I think that there were people who were always criticizing her performance on the show. But I want to say all these podcast kind of shows have these audiences that just relentlessly critique what's happening on those shows. That's what they do, right? There's nothing you could do where they're not going to be relentlessly critiquing it. But then shortly after she gets pregnant, so she goes on maternity leave. When she goes on maternity leave, she's filled in by Loren Lorosa, who Jess Hilarious has said she picked herself to be her replacement. Once Loren starts doing the job, she does a good job. She does a really good job. People think by comparison, they thought she did a better job than Jess Hilarious because they think she's better at reporting, she's better at reading, and she gives a lot more of the facts and context than Jess Hilarious does. Nonetheless, it's Jess Hilarious' job. So Jess Hilarious comes back from maternity leave, and instead of, having her job that she left, instead they still have Loren Lorosa on air, and they then essentially make her a fourth co-host. And instead of giving her own additional segment, what they have her doing is essentially doing Jess's segments, even though Jess is there and it's still named this. So Jess is like, oh, she should have her own segment. I should have my own thing. This isn't what this is. And anyway, it starts to what Jess Hilarious is saying is, this is a little bit of a problem, not because of the problem with Loren Lorosa, but because of management. Like there's something very clear that's happening here, right? Like a woman goes on maternity leave, she should be able to return to her job. It is a serious like gender place discrimination that you come back and you have to be replaced by you're essentially being boxed out. And then I think when she goes to go talk about it to Charlamagne and DJ Envy, their responses are, oh, play into it, like feed into the drama, oh, tell her shut up, essentially all these things that create. It's just and I don't have a problem. Obviously, I don't have a problem.
It felt ignorant. They felt ignorant of the situation too, right? Like I part of me thinks that when they were responding to her, they weren't necessarily trying to get her to cause like quote unquote drama, right? But they're not thinking about the optics at all. About like the understanding of like you're pretty much. It's beyond them to understand the misogyny of the situation.
Oh, I think they absolutely understand the optics and misogyny of it all. First of all, there's nothing that happens in the Breakfast Club that
or they're just clearly ignoring. Like like this is par for the course for the Breakfast Club. Like I have certain areas of respect for like Charlamagne and maybe a little bit less for DJ Envy, but like like
our scammer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's that, and then also like. I was a huge Desus and Mero fan, and then watching him just blow the fuck up for no reason and shit like that. That was annoying. But like, yeah, man, like it's always been this messy. I was surprised at how composed Angela Yee kept it with how messy it was, before. But like, obviously, when somebody like Jess Hilarious comes on, it's just going to get messier and messier. And I don't know why. I don't know, man. Like it maybe they understood the optics of the situation, but yeah, I mean, I'm just not surprised that it would blow up like this, and it would just be a bunch of ignorant decisions that went to the same place.
I don't want to feel like I'm the Jess Hilarious Avenger, because I'm not a Jess Hilarious fan. I can show you the viral videos of criticizing Jess Hilarious. I just want to say that, so no one.
She's talented. She's talented, but like,
in the context of the dynamics of the Breakfast Club, it is unfair how she's being framed, and I think like for a few reasons. First of all, Angela Yee, like the kind of sexism and unfair treatment happened while Angela Yee was there. Like I can think of numerous different incidents where Angela Yee has had to publicly be at it with her co-host, either her co-host or someone that's been on the show. So that it isn't true to say like Jess came here and it's why it's getting messier. No. It's very obvious. I think you could look at it from the Joe Budden podcast universe. You could look at the No Jumper, and you could look at the Breakfast Club and see that they've all kind of leaned into this reality TV thing that is an HR employment discrimination lawsuit waiting to happen, the way that they have like started turning their employees into content and drama, but it's real. You know what I mean? It's real in terms of what's happening there. And I think when it comes to Jess, this idea, like I see people keep turning the debate into whether or not Loren is better than her, and that's not the point. And it's also the fact that that's even the conversation, actually is the because point. I'm like Charlamagne for the longest of time. I'm like DJ Envy, and I don't mean this no disrespect to DJ Envy on a personal level, but DJ Envy is someone people consider a throwaway mic. You know what I mean? DJ Envy is not why people go to the show. DJ Envy has been wrapped up in scandal after scandal. DJ Envy has never been the impressive voice that comes back to DJ Envy was involved in a whole. There are criminal lawsuits happening around that DJ Envy has platformed and had relationships with, used the Breakfast Club to do. We had all that iHeart shit last year, and ain't nobody trying to take this off the show. But they're just like, oh, Jess can't read like that. You know what I mean? So now I gotta it's these women.
But they've also been bad at protecting. Like you were talking about Angela. They were also bad at like sticking up for Angela. I don't know what was the guest who came on who said that like who started just
Gucci talking shit.
I don't know if it was Gucci or somebody was saying like, oh yeah, Angela was coming to my room at like
Gucci
2 a.m. It was Gucci, like and then they instead of Angela being like, no, that didn't happen, they just played up into it. It's like, oh no, you wanted it and shit like that. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, I think that's in that world, it's okay. So, but I'll disagree with you on that, Olay. It actually is the point to put Jess Hilarious and Loren
together.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It is the point. No, I'm saying that's what they're doing intentionally.
Yeah. they're doing it intentionally. So before I used to see these things and I'll go hard. And here's my first thought about everything that went on, and great summarizing it. I think that for her to come on, they did lack that part of it. Angela Yee actually did a great job because she is somebody who is an expert in media. So she did a great job in giving the news and giving the other part of it too. She did that historically on that show with them two for a while at the Breakfast Club. When she left, Jess Hilarious coming on, they were expecting that because even the fill-ins were giving that kind of aspect of it. But then when Jess Hilarious came on permanently, she was just giving, if you've ever watched her stuff, Jess with the mess. And it's just her version of this story, not really factual, but kind of just messy. And it didn't give like Wendy Williams, which Charlamagne comes from, the Wendy Williams show. He's used to, he knows that background, which even Angela Yee gave, even though she was monotone and stuff like that. We were used to her doing that because they have some expertise in radio. They just do. They know how to give that. Jess with the mess comes on as a content creator who is used to visuals, who is used to these things going viral, that stuff. And if y'all know, when she first came on, immediately, I don't know why this was their thing, but immediately they began to attack, I don't know why, trans people, even in their in how they were promoting the show with her coming on there, like a whole bunch of stuff. And it was all stuff that they were putting out that was supposed to be on Instagram. And while they do have their visual aspect of it recently, not like for the past 10 years, but they just started the visual aspect of the podcast. Well, they make it a podcast, but they just started that. That's not what the people know the show for. But I like her little corner, Jess with the mess. I like that. We know her for that. But they needed that. And when Loren came in and stepped in, that girl. Now, if y'all really believe that somebody who gets an opportunity is going to come into the room and make themselves small and protect this little space for this person to come back, she didn't know that they were going to come to her and offer her more position. She was going to shine just in case there was an opportunity. Yep. I don't think that people should make themselves small just for this. I think the conversation started getting crazy. Like, she wasn't loyal to Jess. She didn't have to be. Before that moment, she probably never knew that girl day in her life. She was here for work. And she was doing her thing, and she was like, this is how it should have been. But they made it seem like Black women never loyal. I've been in a situation at a really, I had a really great, one of my first political jobs. Very good. We had a lot of eyes on us. It was really good. They got a girl who happened to be a girl I went to school with. FAMU, the highest of 7 hills, has the best journalism program out there. But, I went to school. Yeah, it's crazy, but, it's true. So I went to school with this young lady, and they knew that. What they tried to do with me and her was like put us in separate rooms and tell us to like, you want to cover that? You want to cover that? You want to cover that? Do you think that you're better? They was trying to do that with me and her. Girl, we got into the office together and we peep game and we talked to each other about it. And we let each other know. And we're like, we'll play it with them. So one day we ended up doing an episode together, like a show together, and talking about like some issues and just doing it together. But we saw what they were trying to do. They will try to do this and make it seem like even in amongst us, in those kind of audiences or not audiences, in those kind of workplaces, there's going to be the one Black girl that meanwhile, it could be 70 in the room. 70 of them in the room, but one Black girl could be the only one that thrives in this space at the Breakfast Club, and may the best one win. We know these two girls are different. When Loren came in, she did provide something different. She didn't provide what Jess Hilarious provides, which is the fun, like that aspect of it, like the fun, the funny, the comedic relief. That's her. She came in with, girl, this is what happened. I actually went over to Wendy Williams where she's staying at. I asked the people, I asked them these questions. I'll follow up, but this is what they told. She's coming in with reporter. And when she ended up leaving, Charlamagne said she ain't got to go nowhere. Let's be real. He said, you're going to be a producer. He helped her be in the back room. He saw that this was a necessary. You're going to be a producer. He kept her in the room. So all of that rah-rah that happened, I think what happened was the comment section. Okay, the comment section happened. Jess is used to being in the comment section. She was allowing this to split them, and what was already on her mind, what she was kind of feeling personally, she, I guess, went in and everybody's like, why you letting her take your place? Why she doing that? Because she mentioned, she said, she been seeing all the stuff in the comments and she don't say nothing. And then she started being disrespectful. Now this is where I said, hell no. Nah. Jess came and took that energy and brought it to the show instead of talking to that girl as she should. She literally started being disrespectful to Loren, telling her to shut up.
Charlamagne told her to. That's my point. It's like, she wasn't the problem.
Charlamagne said that, Olay, but they didn't stick on that because when they came back to the room, that should have been the only conversation when they came back in the room to talk. When they came back in the room to have the conversation on air, they were like, it was still them going back and forth. And I'm like, did y'all forget that when Jess just dropped the live yesterday, she said Charlamagne did this, to the point where Charlamagne was even still throwing them little jabs while they were in the room together.
That's my point. It's not the girls versus each other. Loren didn't do anything wrong. Loren did her job. Like, Loren didn't do anything wrong. They are not the women are not the problem. It's that they are obviously being manipulated and orchestrated and pitted against one another. That's what you're hearing. It's like, first of all, it's like, I think what makes me really sympathize with these women in this situation is the way everything gets framed as something they did or how they're responding to something. Like, even if you see all the things, people are like, oh, Jess, this is a perfect example of how you play yourself out your position and all this bullshit and all this stuff or whatever, right? It's like, no, this is not about her allowing the comment section. The comment section is something that Charlamagne and these people, and again, I say this as people who know the Breakfast Club people, I like them, it's not even personal, but this is what it is. They are weaponizing, they are bringing that to her. She's having these conversations there intentionally. Everything that's being said in the comment section is what they are mirroring and affirming back to her as they have somebody basically infringing on her job. Like, oh, you had your own segment, she does this segment now instead of giving her own thing. And those are intentional. They could, the same way they now have, the latest with Loren Lorosa, and then you want to Charlamagne and Veil, so he's giving her a podcast on Black Effect. They could have given her, and that's what Jess had said, they could have given her her own segment in the first place. But it's this idea that there can be two Charlamagne and DJ Envy. There can always be two men on the show, but there's only one spot for a woman. And so even if we have these two women here, it's designed to make them fight for the one little piece of space, and carve out that you have.
I was going to say, I think that's the issue in itself, right? Like, when you have, this is where culture and structural safety can meet within the workplace. And so when you have Black women who are publicly facing, and especially working in public media, that feeds the narrative that quote unquote Black women cannot get along. So what Charlamagne did, what DJ Envy did, I think this is like a full culmination of, one, for Black women before they even get into the room, what does it look like to be aligned around the stuff that men are not privy to? And so what does it mean to have this kind of coalition building? Because when these men try to play in your face, that's when you have to be able to like stand 10 toes in who you are, because the public is going to break you up, because that's what's going to happen. We feed into this narrative. But I think the second piece to that is within the workplace. What Charlamagne did was actually create a hostile work environment. And so that's really what is occurring in this moment. And he's able to capitalize off of the attention economy. And so now, in my mind, I was like, wait, where's FCC policy? Aren't they still a radio show? Am I bugging? Like, where is the structure switched up? Because now they move more like a podcast rather than moving like an actual radio show that people are hearing. And so when they are having this, they no longer hit to their regular duty as media practitioners. Now, and again, however you want to look at the Breakfast Club, Just Hilarious makes sense in the context of a Breakfast Club, because are we looking at them as a reputable source, right? Whereas the other piece, the other layer to this is now you have someone who's Loren Lorosa, who's trained in journalism, and you have somebody who's a commentator like Jess. Those are two very different avenues coming in. Just Hilarious, for all intents and purposes, is looking at as the ghetto Black girl, versus where Loren Lorosa is somebody who is trained. And so when you have this dichotomy begin to exist, you either have the people who are like, this is what we appreciate in expertise, or hey, this is also a come up story. So both stories are actually valid in terms of how they got to their positions. Where they are existing now are actually foils to each other. So because of them two acting as foils, it then becomes, oh, well, we should respect Loren more because she has the expertise. And I do. And at the end of the day, I studied broadcast journalism. I respect the expertise of what she is able to do. And she also came from TMZ. So like that gives a little bit more coloring as to how she can actually function in this kind of mess anyways, versus like a Just Hilarious who comes with a little bit more like I came up out of the mud type situation. So her getting into this space is going to look very different. So what's happening is happening on three levels of like, how'd you get here and do you actually deserve this job? The second piece is like, how are you actually presenting yourself, which is beginning to happen? people's dislike for either woman is going to show up in that space. From a structural level, though, here's the person who people feel are qualified for the job, who's not. But at the top are these two men who are allowed to kind of orchestrate, because the reality is, once Jess Hilarious exposed Charlamagne for saying, lean into it, become the mean girl, this is where they are able to up that. So that's why I kind of disagreed with Zed in terms of like, they don't know, playing as if they're infantilized and they don't know what they're doing. They actually know how to bring more attention and drive the conversation, because something that people love to see is Black women fighting. Something that people love to feed into is that. And so how do we build off of this, continue to keep this relevant, but then also, I think this part that I'm nervous about is what precedent does this send for anybody who's looking to go into the public media space, or somebody who's interested in seeing just how structurally Black women are not going to be protected, whether they're at the leadership of Black men or the network, because what they're caring about is ratings. They're not caring about the ethics that surround getting those ratings. So that's my thought process. I'm like, been thinking about it, because also Jess Hilarious likes to benefit from patriarchy as much as possible, which is why she engages in the transphobia and all of that stuff. And so she's also, what she perpetuates is now coming to bite her in the butt. So I think we should also be very for real when we're having that piece of the conversation too, because I really don't bang with her. So in my mind, she gets whatever's coming to her. And we can also name that patriarchy is very much so at play, where she thought it would benefit. And now you wanted to be an agent, patriarchy can serve as a double agent, and those men did that.
And that is literally what that is where I'm so sorry. That point at the end is where I'm like, I wish that this situation was not happening with Jess Hilarious. Like, it is very difficult.
Literally the wrong messenger.
Because I'm like, of course, there's going to be this like competitive spirit and like misalignment with this other Black woman, because you also are a misogynist. Like, you also perpetuate misogynoir as a Black woman.
Yes.
And so naturally, like, you're transphobic. Of course you're going to be in a situation like this where you can be used as a tool, as an agent of patriarchy, and let Charlamagne like dance you around like a puppet, because there is not like you don't have a principled or an assessment of misogyny, of transphobia. Like, you don't have that. And so I don't think she just wasn't well equipped to like be in a situation like that. And she also perpetuates the violence that she's now experiencing. Not saying that she deserves any of it. I don't think that at all. I do not think that. And I also won't say that Jess Hilarious isn't talented. I'm not her audience. That's what I'm going to say, is that I'm not her audience. There are people that love her and think she's very funny. More power to them. But that's not, you know what I mean? Not my audience. But I don't like that although she perpetuates these things, she's also a victim. And the other thing that I found really frustrating throughout this whole thing is this, like, how people are pretending like Charlamagne and DJ Envy have this journalistic integrity.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Dude.
That's hilarious.
None of them
like,
do.
is an outlier.
Like,
here.
that's what I'm saying. They're treating her like she is this, like, especially inept. You know what I mean? Like, this like bar has come out of nowhere only to assess her, to justify what is obviously like workplace mismanagement and sexism in terms of what is happening here. But I do agree with y'all. Like, I agree that obviously Jess Hilarious is we know she's transphobic. We know she has a few prejudices. We know that she participates in this environment. But I think my problem and I've seen a lot of people, and I have no problem with people who are like, I can't defend Jess Hilarious, or I don't care about it because it's Jess Hilarious. I got that. That's cool. That's fine. I think the problem with that approach as a larger thing is it's very close to the perfect victim problem. The reality is, this is what is this is happening. It don't matter who Jess Hilarious was. Jess Hilarious could have been a brilliant progressive bitch. They would have been doing the same shit to her. They would have found another reason. We could have flipped it. Had it been Loren originally, they would have replaced it with Jess Hilarious, and people would have been talking about how Loren don't suit the environment. We love Jess coming in with all this. Because remind you, loved Jess when they had her filling in for it. They were excited about that pick. She wasn't just picked based on her internet portfolio and they thought she would work for the show. They had been trying her out for like a year, and people liked her. They liked her. So it's a matter of this. I want to make sure I speak to the fact that there is a reality TV show climate that has come around these kinds of shows. You see it on No Jumper, you see it on Joe Budden. There is an intentionality. The Joe Budden universe spends all their time giving Melissa a hard time, setting up narrative, putting her in drama, pitting Ish against every new co-host. Like, it's all kind of shit that they do. It similarly with No Jumper, right? So there's an element of they are deliberately doing, and they want to do this, and they would be finding ways to make drama regardless. But there's a way they're doing it because she's a woman. They couldn't wait to shy away from all of DJ Envy's real big drama, shit that would have gotten way more views. What people was talking about, they shy away from their real serious drama. But I think it's funny. It's like the amount of gaslighting that's happening in plain sight. Jess Hilarious obviously went on the internet after they had been pushing this gal, you know what I mean, upsetting her, and you could see how this environment had been playing out. We're watching it for months. Once she goes online, they bring her on air to talk about it on air to millions of people while calling her corny, talking about, oh, you taking it to the internet, but you have her on air. And as they're being like, oh, you playing yourself, you listening to these comments, they have people calling into the show, the commenters, the that you telling her, why is she playing into this and why is she listening to this and letting them manipulate? But it's them. They're obviously like manipulating her in plain sight.
Because that's what was in the first. Sorry.
No. Let me get this out because Olay know I've been wanting to talk about this. I love it all. I hear it all. But no. Jess Hilarious is just as bad as Charlamagne. Before she got on the show, she acts like this before she got on the Breakfast Club. She's been problematic. So what I'm saying is, I ain't talking about even the things that she does is hateful to people. She is this type of person. She literally has been like this. This is her personality. Do I think she's funny? Do I think she's entertaining? I actually do, especially before I seen that she became problematic, right? But she's been like this. And here's my thing. And this is like how I've seen her in, on social media, how she carries herself or whatever. I think she's a beautiful girl. I think she's very talented. But I also think even if she's wrong before going to the Breakfast Club, she doesn't give a damn. Like, she doesn't care. She's going to make sure, like, she pumps her chest up. She lets people know what's up. It doesn't mean that she's not sensitive. It doesn't mean none of those things. But she has the same characteristics of these other people until
she's not
like it comes to her door. So
but
I think that
it's talk radio.
But now it's different though. They're morphing. It's 2025.
I'll jump in after you, Rebecca.
When they brought her in, they literally made her present herself as content creator. They made her do so much content creation first. They didn't even give her a chance to do, because she does Jess with the Mess fine. And if they literally just sat there and promoted that would be great. They made her do content creation for weeks, like little visuals and stuff like that, instead of honing in on what she can do. Because I think that she's great at giving her little spill, her funny comedic relief. I think she's great for the show in that way. But I do think that before any real conflict ever happened, people were peeping when she came back that there was some kind of issue with her and Loren in the room, to the point where she made it visible, where she would literally start attacking her in the room. And I think that's problematic. Don't sit here
every time we bring this up without bringing up the context of her boss, the man that is her boss, who she spoke to first, telling her to do that because he sees it as entertainment and reality.
Point taken. But after she said it on the show, this is my thing though. After she said it was a problem that Charlamagne did it. You said this yourself. She still went on there. She told them she could have left. Because if she went live, she know that was putting her job at risk in some way, shape, or form, calling out names and all those things. She still came on. She didn't talk to Charlamagne exactly. She still was coming after Loren in the room. And I know that because she called out Charlamagne
I watched the entire thing. No, she wasn't. She spent her time actually explaining that her problem was them not taking it seriously, that she's been talking about it. And then Charlamagne and them, after her first 10 minutes, that's when they brought it to Loren and basically tried to sick her. I'm telling you, they was sitting there orchestrating it
in that moment. But I'm saying, as strong as she was in her live, saying that Charlamagne said this, Charlamagne said that, Charlamagne did that, I feel like being in the room, that was a great opportunity. But what they really did stick on, and Charlamagne didn't make it any easier. He's problematic for even being in the room laughing while she was speaking, Jess was speaking, dismissing her. She said that in the live that she did before she got on the show, that he was being dismissive, all of those things. I think, and even Loren was saying that while she was talking, they were doing the same thing to her. I think it's weird because there was a little favoritism being played. In my opinion, there was towards Loren. I feel like at that moment, it did bring up what Marcus was saying too. They looking at Jess, because they was when Jess was first coming on and she was the pick, they were pushing her. You know, the content creator, they were letting her use promo, transphobic, like promo and all that stuff. They were pushing it with her. And then all of a sudden, this other girl gets here. Now they're pushing her. There was a favoritism situation going on. Now that it's not Jess and it's her, she came into the room, and I think that there was a problem with Loren. But I'll say this, even when she's in the room, and Loren said this in the interview because I watched it too. She said, like, I reached out to you personally, and still in the rooms, you telling me to shut up, and I let it be, but I talked to you about this. And then while they were discussing it, Jess is still disrespecting her right there. And I'm like, the disrespect is still displaced. Give it to Charlamagne. You're like, let's focus on Charlamagne. That was
this is why, again, this is quite literally what, like, legally, why, what workplace, why, what is a cause for employment discrimination? Because how we are analyzing this is the antithesis of what a workplace is. She cannot give it to Charlamagne the way that's why he has channeled it that way. So it's like, we keep putting it on. Again, I get we don't like Jess hilarious, but this is very obvious.
It's not because I don't like her, but she gave it. She put it online the day before. If she wasn't afraid to do that, and she's not afraid, I don't think that she was afraid to do that. I just think that because her actual feelings was towards Loren, I think that she knows what the point was. She said it yesterday, but being in that room and Loren actually speaking up in that moment, she just let it be that. Like, oh, you didn't say that yesterday, now you want to say it now? I'm like, girl, that's not the point. Charlamagne is the one that literally told you to do a play on this and continue it, and that's what y'all need to talk about. Charlamagne is the main problem. And then here go Envy sitting there not helping either, telling her, you know, oh, you too sensitive or whatever. That doesn't help either. None of that. And I think that she was better off. I think, Jess, if the place is not conducive for your mental health or however, girl, get the hell on.
If that's the reality, women will be jobless every day. If our response to watching men obviously manipulate them, take advantage of them in the workplace, and intentionally pit them against each other, carve out tiny spaces for them, use their having babies and going on maternity leave as opportunities to ice them, box them out of their jobs. If our response is, if that makes you that uncomfortable, then go. You know what I mean? That is not
I don't think that's not.
We literally just said if she didn't like it that much, Rebecca literally just said she could leave.
No,
she could end up with Rebecca.
If it was causing her that much stress, it was causing her that much. Hold on, Zed. If it was causing her that much stress, like she was saying, and she made it a point to say Charlamagne is the one that's doing all of this. It was literally causing her so much stress. She said she's been seeing the comments, and Charlamagne been doing this and da 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 da. If they're not helping you, if they're doing all this, and you know that they're actively pitting you against this person, and now you're in the room, you can't even work right. Every interview that's happening, you don't want to be there. Leave it. That's not conducive to, I think she's very talented enough to do her own thing or go somewhere else. People seen that. I know it's a great opportunity for her, but I don't think it's the end all be all for her. And I even think for Loren too, for that type of environment, for any woman that comes in there and you're not protected, I'm not saying be jobless, but it's not fair that you got to be in a room where you have to be fighting for your life. You feel like it's a struggle. If the place is not protecting you or whatever the case may be, then I think that she has the right to leave.
That is a hair away from when men be like, take these bitches out the workplace, because that essentially, again, if the environments don't fight for us, what is happening is her, like, whether or not we like her, should play it out how it's going. Her speaking out, her coming out and freaking out in her live and stuff was her trying to fight to be in this space, like to say what she's been upset about. And she said that when they kept trying to give her grief for having spoken out, she was like, that is what I wanted to do. I have been wanting to speak up. I've been feeling like I wanted to address this. That is her trying to fight to be in the space. Us saying that it's unfair. Yes, it is unfair that this is what's happening in this space. It is unfair that they aren't protected. Not just Jess, Loren too, because it's bullshit that Loren, I want to be clear. What I'm speaking about is not Jess being mistreated. It's women being mistreated in this space. Because what I'm trying to say is, this is the experience every time we see a woman in one of these environments. We could see it on the Joe Budden podcast. Angela Yee got treated like this. We could go walk down. I could walk you through every woman that's appeared on a Joe Budden podcast or any of this, like, temporarily hosting. Same thing with the No Jumpers. They all go because they are mistreated. They are openly mistreated, and they're mistreated not just like by the environments, like the workplace environment, what's happening in the show, but by the audiences that see it, that know it, and go, fine, it's reality TV or carry your ass. You know what I mean? That's how everybody's response is. And again, I hate when you tangentially know any of these people like talking about this, but it's like the same thing with the Joe Budden verse. It's like Melissa Ford is mistreated all the time. They jump down her throat. All these kicking a back in. So as that starts to affect her performance, because your performance is affected, and we know that that's the whole thing about a hostile work environment in real life. If your work environment is hostile, it affects how you show up at the job, how people, the relationship that your coworkers are having with you, because you are frustrated by having a fucked up boss, by having all these different things. So what I'm saying is, all of this is real. All of this is we're watching. If we don't like how Jess is handling it, or Jess's relationship with Loren and all these different things, they are all manifestations of the larger work environment that has been manipulated. And I guess maybe I need to take a step back and make clear what's my point. I'm not really speaking to worrying about Jess Hilarious's job or Loren Lorosa's job. I'm talking about how women are treated in these spaces and how we respond to how women are treated in these spaces.
You're talking about
power. Also the women.
You're talking about power and patriarchy.
Yes.
Like in how it functions in real life. Like that is what you have like zoomed out. And we're looking at this like, this is what power looks like. This is how power functions. This is how women are harmed by patriarchy. Like that's what I feel like. There's two different conversations happening. Right. And I also think I'm gonna let you go because I know you've been trying. I pinged you on it. But what I'm saying is that like, I think what Olay, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're talking about power and patriarchy, and we're talking about the way that Jess is also a victim. She's a victim of this thing.
And a perpetrator.
And a perpetrator of the thing. And I think she's allowed to be both. And this is coming from someone, I am not a fan. I just think she can be both. I think like, even if she's been an asshole for 25 years, she can still be a victim of patriarchal violence in the workplace. Like that can still happen.
Zed, and now Rebecca.
Okay. I concur. No, but like I was gonna say, I think the point that I get the point that you're trying to make, Olay, about like the reality TVification of hip hop media and how that's kind of played into it. Like that makes I think you can have both that and the idea that this is a patriarchal situation where Charlamagne and Envy are feeding into pitting these two women against each other, that this whole situation is very much so a double standard. But you can also say that Jess has a habit of doing very messy shit that makes this stuff worse. I think both can be true.
Her being a messy person, I don't like. Why?
That's not what
a messy person, and she's Jess is messy. Jess is prejudiced. Jess has done a bunch of other things that are fucked up. That doesn't necessarily mean she's the messy bitch in this scenario.
No, I don't think she's the messy. I don't think she's the messy bitch in this scenario. I think I think when you said it was, look, I align with you 100% on the idea that like no jumpers of the world, the Joe Buddens of the world, the academics of the world make this shit into a circus, right? Rather than a journalist or something to really like actually absorb good information from sometimes, right? I completely agree with you on that. And I completely agree that they play into a lot of problematic, toxic things in that environment, right? In this situation, I'm not saying like Jess is uniquely the problem child in all of this and is causing all of these problems, right? But I think you can if you're going to have nuance about the fact that, Jess is not the perfect victim, but she's also in this situation that is really, really fucked up because these the environment is not conducive to having two women work in one space.
And right? Not just that again. Loren is also a victim of this. Like,
of course.
I want to be clear.
Loren is 100% a victim in this, right? I think if you have that 100%, but you can also have nuance, right? And say that while Jess is being treated unfairly, she also has a habit of doing problematic shit.
I've said that 962 times. I've said that actually mad times. I actually was in my opening statement. So I think the thing I'll say about this, the only last thing I'll say
what's the, I don't know what the I think if it's and, it felt like we're arguing which one is the more correct thing.
I think the actual conversation is about Charlamagne, DJ Envy, Joe Budden. These are not journalists. These are not
pundits.
Journalists. These are not with mics. These are with mics and experience.
I don't get why we care.
And I really something that you said earlier. You said something like, "Is this a reputable source?" And the issue The real issue is that it is for hella people, for the masses of people. They are listening to Joe Budden and getting an assessment from him. They are listening to Charlamagne and DJ Envy and getting an assessment and an analysis of the world and issues. They don't look at Jess and just think she's up there kikiing like for no reason. They all, even if she's a content creator, they're listening to her, they're hearing her, they're seeing her be put on this pedestal, no matter where it is, and they are agreeing with shit that she says. These people, I won't put Loren in this bunch because she's trained, and I pray she's got some journalistic integrity. I hope, you know what I mean? But what I'm saying is that I just don't, my expectation for them is this. Like this actually, of course they're going to do this. Of course, like anytime Mark Lamont Hill has Mel's back on the Joe Budden podcast, of course all them are going to be mad because in the comments, their audience, they're eating it up. They're like, oh, Mark Lamont Hill, she not going to give you no pussy. Sorry if you got to bleep that out. But that's what they're saying. Like, it's nasty. They are feeding this thing because their audience is hungry for it. So, like, we are in a nasty fascist, like disgusting era, and it's been there for a long time, but these people, these men, they are feeding the hungry ass wolves that are their audiences, and that's the reality in my opinion.
I have a question for y'all. I mean, with the points you just made, I have a question approaching the topic of them not being a reputable source for news, for reliable information. Why do y'all watch? Or why are y'all in the audience? Like, why are y'all so like if you know that this is terrible, that Envy sucks, that Charlamagne sucks, these are not journalists. Most of the things they say are twisted or warped, are reality TV. Mm-hmm. Why do y'all watch the show?
But why do sports people watch Stephen A. Smith? Stephen A. Smith has this one clip online of 7 years of him predicting the NBA finals wrong. And
I would agree with you. I think Stephen A. Smith is the worst.
Of course, but people watch it because they like to see the crash out. They like hot takes. They get bored.
But that's my thing. Like, that's your opinion. I'm asking all of y'all.
I watch these things rarely, but I watch because of what I do in my life.
Delaney came to my house and turned on Pop the Balloon.
Right.
I didn't even know it was a show for real till Delaney came in my house insisting that we need to watch it.
Yes. What did I tell you? Pop the Balloon for me is an anthropological study. I am looking.
What? Hold on.
I know.
But
I'm serious. I'm so serious. Like, I'm not kidding. Like,
no, I get it.
It is very serious to me because what I am concerned about as someone who's an organizer, I work in narrative. I work in these specifically for Black people. I want to know what the masses of Black people are being fed and what they're excited about listening to. Like, so yeah, of course I'm gonna watch Joe Budden because what I noticed is I was hearing people say stuff and I'm like, where the fuck did you get that from? Or I'm like, and I'm listening to my friends talk, or I box, so I'm at the gym with the majority of men, and I hear people say certain things and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I go back and I'm searching. I'm like, whoa. And it's Joe Budden and Ish, whatever his name is, and academics. And then I'm around these young boys, these young boys. And that's where they're getting it from too. So I'm watching from like what are y'all talking about? And, I won't lie, I giggle sometimes.
That's what I wanted.
They get me.
I wanted a little bit of honesty.
You know what I mean? I giggle here and there. When we watch Pop the Balloon, we was having a good time. We were having a good time.
I think being able to discern between something that's entertaining and something that's informative is important. I take to your point why it would be an anthropological study, and I think that's actually really the only reason I laugh is because Olay just threw that out there. I was like, oh,
really,
damn.
like really just put my business out there.
I was like, oh shit!
Right now we watching this nonsense.
People watch those things though because literally, people they don't want to watch what's real or what's factual anymore because and Jess with a mess says, because her news is real. She knows that what she says, people will relate to. She says that all the time because she knows the takes that she says, people will relate to. It's not only her, but a lot of people will follow, like, you know, Kevin Samuels done died, but he put out things that weren't, but were like, yeah, that sounds like, you know, it was like, I will speak to the terrible things that you've done as a man, and I'll prop that up, make you feel good about it. And a whole sea of women who are sprinkling over here, and the ones that's over here, it's calling women low value over here, and then the ones that's saying, what was it, low value plates or whatever the case that was, they will follow those people and those things because it makes them, it speaks to something within them, or
but it is real.
Yeah, I was
going to say, it literally is real.
Is it real?
Answer a question too, Cam,
Like,
because I think that's a really valuable question when you ask, like, why do we watch it?
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna act like it's let me say this, because I think this kind of what I've been thinking about. I think about this when I think about not just Jess Hilarious in this conversation, but when I think about how people on Twitter respond to Molly on Insecure. I love problematic. Let me say this. In order to love Black people, to love, there has to be space for problematic, because I think baseline is problematic. Like I said it to say, like, I know in real life, not I met in class or whatever. I just the array of that I know. I know a lot of wonderful problematic who do not know no better. They've not heard the things that I think of, like that I go analyze. They've never thought about that. Like I wanted to say when we talk about, and I don't mean to call dumb or anything like that. I'm not even going to say Jess Hilarious is dumb or something, but do you think that Jess Hilarious and these people understand patriarchy and shit the way we do? Like,
wait. So that's a good question. I think from what I've heard Charlamagne say in public, I think he has a surprising understanding.
Oh, I don't mean Charlamagne. That knows. We have this conversation in front
of one of them knows, and one of them who knows is the boss.
Knows.
He's maybe just a bad person.
I didn't say all that.
It's the producer of the show.
Let's not get Olay in trouble.
Sorry.
Cam, we were talking over Cam. What were you saying?
No, if Charlamagne knows, if the person who pulls the strings is the producer of the show, who has some of the most weight on this show, if he knows, if he has a good grip of what patriarchy is, of what he's doing to these women, I get that he's the main perpetrator, that he's the one who deserves all the attention. But why are we of the opinion that these are the shows that we need to be watching, even if it is real to you, even if there is a degree, a faction of Black people that are going to take this and run with it, and you need to figure out what the source is? I would argue that we don't need to consume as much of it. There are alternatives.
So I don't watch The Breakfast Club. I have been on The Breakfast. Like, I don't watch The Breakfast Club on a regular basis. I have been on there. I know the people on the show. I see the things that like trend or whatever have you. Like, I've seen things, but I'm not somebody who's watching The Breakfast Club. Right? I'm not there talking. Which is why I think half the time the criticizing The Breakfast Club in the first place are not their audience. That's not who's watching them. Right? That's why no matter how viral these critiques go, it changes nothing over there because we're not the audience. I say this to say sometimes this is a real thing I have with my family and friends and stuff. Everybody, they'll think I'm going to go ruin something for them if we're watching it. It's like, oh, that's propaganda. And I don't mean that you can't like it. Like, I think analysis is important to not just internalize these things. And I also think all these things create great opportunity. People think the reason why The Breakfast Club is popular and it's more popular than all our shit and it'll continue to be that way is because more niggas are thinking like them than they're thinking like us. More niggas are agreeing. And for that reason, that provides me a great opportunity to explain to why, you know what I mean, what the problem with that is, you know what I mean, or these things. That's how I see like, I guess the purpose of media analysis. Like, I don't have a problem watching a show like You, where Joe Goldberg is a serial killer, like preying on women, and this goofy audience like is against the women and side with the serial killer. If I have the opportunity to analyze that, I can still enjoy the show as long as I have the ability to dissect that and break that down and understand why that's a problem. And I feel like it's like I be like CJ loves Spider-Man. We know that that's propaganda. But you can still love Spider-Man. We have to know and not internalize the bad messaging. So I don't think everything, I'm not saying it's been necessary, but The Breakfast Club, I think there's a lot of these shows and these things that are not, and I think there's a spectrum, because I'm not saying that for some shit I really think need to go. Like, it really gotta get the fuck up out here. Like,
what is y'all's opinion? Like, I would love to know if that's how you feel about a show like Breakfast Club, about a show like Joe Budden, because what I've thought, and I'm my whole life, I spent my whole life trying not to rain on people's parade, because I'm like, that shit is stupid. I've gotten better at it as I've gotten older, of just let people have things, let people enjoy things, right? But when I think about these shows, it's inarguable, and I think we've all agreed about this, that this shit is bad. Like, this shit is bad for, on a large scale, this shit is bad. It's bad that it has the reach it has. It's bad that someone like, who is as problematic as Jess, is put in that position in the first place. They knew that this was going to happen. This was an inevitability. So, like, why is a show that powerful, that far-reaching, that destructive allowed to, not allowed to is free speech, right? But like, why are we not only giving it so much attention, but why are we validating it by saying that? I've heard a lot of compliments thrown towards the Breakfast Club in this discussion, and I'm questioning those. Like, do we think this is something worth salvaging that can be salvaged, or do we think that this is just bad?
I was like,
Cam. So I'm gonna go back to the earlier one, but I'm gonna go here first.
Yeah.
I'm gonna answer your questions real quick. Cam, it's 2025.
Right.
I love where your mind is, right? I'm with you on that. But baby, the way, you know how they used to say sex sales, drama sells.
Yeah.
They know, that's why in real time we saw during the conversation between Loren and Jess, you see him on the side saying, you know, like, let's play on it. He said this in real time in the interview or in their discussion. Like, you know, I mean, stay out the comments or we just play on it.
Right.
People gonna think this, people gonna think that. Charlamagne, he, at this point, he doesn't even care about anything. I remember back in the day when I lived in New York and I got the opportunity to meet him a couple of times, speak with him, all the things. He was very about building and how to do things. And, you know, he was that type of man. Now he doesn't care. It doesn't matter at this point. Right now, in all forms of media, even if you're just lying or if you're saying something that's problematic or whatever, as long as that gets the eyes, and what gets the eyes is arguments. And I seen a trend in, if you even fake arguments with somebody to sell your track or to push your song or to push the, you know, Real Housewives of Atlanta or whatever, all of that is going to,
it works. I agree with you.
Be the thing that sells.
We're on the same page.
I will say, before I forget, because I want to go back to it, going back to Just Hilarious. You see, Delaney, you said earlier, maybe Charlamagne just a bad person. That's where I am. It's not about how the system there is wrong. I know that 100%. That doesn't mean that she deserves whatever they were trying to do there. Loren is also a victim, but just because she played it cool, people think that she deserves a seat more than Jess. No. Jess is just natural, like I said, that's her personality. However, she also helped try to create what a hostile environment was for her. She was trying to do that to Loren by coming in and trying to ice her, telling her she didn't belong there, reiterating many a time, I'm the reason why you're here. I brought you here, you know, in public, on camera, on the microphone. And many a time, Loren didn't say anything. I don't like it that Jess, we got to give her grace, but we don't have to at the same time, because anybody that's a nasty person, in my opinion, I don't give a damn. You're just as bad to me as Charlamagne. Now, systemically, we understand the things, but Jess is not, she's not a good person, in my opinion.
She's not a good person.
Not because of the things that she's going viral for or whatever. She just she will diminish a person and don't give a damn. And that's my problem with it. And I think if you're a bad person and you sit here and cry wolf, that's problematic.
Even if she's not, even if we agree that she's not a good person, or there's a lot of different things that like evidence that and indicate that, what I've been saying is I don't believe this situation is evidence of that. And even using how she like treats Loren, because again, that is a result of the environment. That is a result of her employers telling her to behave like this, telling her it's a reality.
Or even what she thought about me.
Let me just say this. I don't think Loren is wrong for anything. Loren is playing ball within the system that she's in the same way I'm not prepared to condemn Jess for how she's responding to this environment. I'm not prepared to do it to Loren either. Because if I was going to do that, I would say things like, on the very first day back, and they talked about this very first day back, a woman comes off, you fill her job for a while. She's on maternity leave. She just had a baby. She comes back to her job. It's very obvious you're still there. It's obvious the employers are trying to freeze her out, and she's being talked about like a dog in the comments. And you bring it up, you raise it to her like about the comment section, whatever, immediately. Doing things like that are up. But again, that's not her fault. That's not Loren's fault. You see what I'm saying?
Just because, and I get it. I understand it, and I agree with that 100%. But like I said, just like the in the room could be problematic, and we can admit that they're not good people or whatever the case may be, I can do the same thing for the women. And I just think that in a different space, Jess would. I just think Jess had a problem with her being, no matter how it was, there was no loyalty to let me save your spot for whatever. She came in there to fill the spot, and they offered her an opportunity, and she went with it. All of Jess's grievances after that, especially verbally, was she ain't supposed to be here. It's supposed to only be me or whatever. And while that is something that was something that should have been discussed with them, even Loren was saying, we discussed this when it was brought to me, I brought it to you, but you kept bringing it here. You kept bringing it here. Like when we could have had a discussion about it, we could have did all the things. Yeah. I just think that there was a problem with this other woman being in the room, and sometimes
because but that's not about. But again, that's not about her being
without it being the environment. Sometimes women just are like that.
She had a problem with Loren being there, but not because she has a problem with Loren, but because she recognizes that you're trying to freeze out her job. It's that simple. Like, it's not about a personal agenda towards Loren. And I think it's like, look, I feel like Jess was very candid. Like, if we give nothing credit, if we call it a crash out or call whatever it is, or say she shouldn't have brought this to us, at the very least, give credit to this level of candid crash out that she told us exactly how she felt. She said, I initially felt this way about Loren still being here, because I'm like, what the fuck is going on with my job? But I realized it's not about Loren. I'm not mad at Loren. I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with these. So it's like, I don't want to me, it feels diminishing to a black woman expressing how she feels.
I don't think that she was mad at Loren. I just think that she was a problem with another woman being in the room. That's just how I feel about it.
It's not about another woman being in a room. It's about the fact that she knows, again, to the larger patriarchy, she knows that in their mind, only one woman, there's only one spot for one woman. They don't have these two women here because they intend to let them be both these women and show up in all their glory. They want them.
She also moves in that. She also works in that. The same way that Charlamagne does, she functions from that. She goes, that's what I'm saying.
In this scenario, she's
because of that, she moves the same way that they move. But when it was brought to her, when now it's an issue for her, she has to explain that it's a problem. But when it's benefiting her and whatever, there ain't nothing to say, right?
I think we can agree on that. Like, I think we said that at the beginning. Like now,
are we criticizing the environment? Are we criticizing? Is the argument Jess?
It's both to me. It's both.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree that it's the environment, but I also think that Jess moves just like them. She moves exactly like them.
Does.
But now that it's there, she has to present it in a way.
I think both of y'all are right. I think, Rebecca, I think your point is salient. I think, Olay, I think your point is salient as well. Two things can be true. Like, she moves like them. And at the same time, this specific scenario of coming back from leave after having a baby and having your role diminished and given to somebody else is inarguably wrong.
That's true.
It's wrong.
Both are
true.
Wrong.
If he got to sue these, she has a cause. They've aired it.
No, I agree that it's wrong.
Yeah, like I
do.
But I will say this: I think it's important, like to what Rebecca and Delaney are saying. I do think it is really, there are a lot women are raised, and I think this is the conversation I want to have in terms of like my problem with how, I guess, like, when we see, it's like, we want to be like, look at the leopard eating her face, right? Like, you're an example of a woman who, look how you like this system, you participate in this system, and then look how, it's doing you. But the reality is, everybody is indoctrinated into a patriarchy. The average woman walks around weaponizing patriarchy and internalizing misogyny and all of that because they're trained to, we live our entire lives having that reinforced. And so, yes, you're right. There are going to constantly be examples of those, of women having that shit like backfire on them, but it also doesn't, they show up the way you see that manifest. It doesn't make them the initial villain, or at the very least, you have to teach them why they're the villain. Like, they don't get why it's backfire. That's why they're so angry. Like I've talked about this a lot in terms of even Jess Hilarious's transphobia, right? Jess Hilarious's transphobia doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists as a dark-skinned Black woman who's constantly being, having her femininity put on trial, constantly being masculinized, constantly already feeling like there is very little womanhood and femininity and beauty reserved to me as a dark-skinned Black woman who they masculinize. They call me a man. And so because she doesn't understand, you know what I mean? The larger she is, instead of being mad at this larger system or getting it, she's mad at trans women who she thinks are the reason this is harder for me, because she thinks this is just the way it is. She doesn't see the initial problem with like, oh, the masculinization of this, oh, the colorism of this, oh, all these different things. And she's lashing out. So I agree. I think you're absolutely right. We have numerous examples of how Jess Hilarious is a participant in the system, and it backfires on her. But that's my point is like, yes, it's backfiring on her. It backfires. Misogyny and sexism and patriarchy and gender roles and conservatism backfires on women every single day. It's the whole pick-me-ism of it all. But these have to be opportunities rather than, to me, opportunities to be like, fuck you, bitch, look how you got it. It's like, they have to know it. You learn, you kind of in life, like think about times where you've like realized like, shit, I had that fucking wrong. You know what I mean? Like life kind of had to play out to you and kind of have to point out to you. You have to learn why, like, shit. Oh, I'm out here playing the game like this. I think it's like this. That's how you realize, you know what I mean? I'm sure you can think of times like when you're I think of like classmates and stuff who were like be tokenized as the one Black person there or whatever, yada, yada, yada. And they played the game and it took them like, I know them now as older people who, I get what was happening. I see why that's wrong. And I'm not saying Jess is ever going to change or anything like that. Or like, we got to give her opportunity to grow or she's never had that or anything like that. But what I'm saying is what's happening to her, what we're seeing is, yes, women are participants in patriarchy. They are participants in patriarchy and misogyny, and they're also victims of it, but they don't understand. That doesn't mean they always understand how they are participants and victims of it.
Yeah. I think I agree. And also what's coming up for me is like, at what cost?
Yeah.
Right? You're learning at whose cost? Because for me, in my brain, like I think about immediately, I remember when Jess, at least when I first saw like really transphobic conversations that Jess was having and things that she was saying, people were like, hey, Jess, this, and this. Like, we're teaching you this thing about transphobia. We are connecting the dots for you because you're clearly not going to do it on your own. And she said no. Like she's like, no,
because it's not her. Because right? It's not. Yeah. There's also an element of
what did she say? Can y'all?
Sure, but I think what I'm saying though is that if it's us or them, right? If it's our lives that are at stake, because that's really what's at stake. Is like our lives. Like patriarchy is a killer. Transphobia is a killer. Like it's not just like about, I mean, the workplace thing, of course, because eventually you lose your job, you can't feed your family, you do other things, then you die. Like all of these, this is a death sentence. Patriarchy is a death sentence. Transphobia is a death sentence, not just for trans people, but for people like for Jess, for all of us. And so I think now, like in this conversation, as I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, I hate that this happened to Jess, and I don't want her to be on the air. I hate that I also don't want Charlamagne and Envy to be on the air, but they are. Like I don't want any of this to exist, but it does. And so I think that there's an element of like there's utility in analyzing this issue, because we can say these things out loud, and hopefully an audience will see it and be like, damn, okay. Like, damn, all right, maybe I should change the way that I understand these things. But I think we have to be more thoughtful in how we like. It's kind of like when folks are talking about abolition or transformative justice, and people skip out on, they're so ready to redeem the abuser. Like they're so ready, especially if it's a man, they're so ready to say, but he said sorry, he wants to be transformed, but there's not enough time spent talking about the actual actually hurt in this thing because of patriarchy. Like you're so excited to redeem this man. So I don't know. I'm not having mixed feelings, but I think it's like there's dynamics here, and I understand what you're saying.
I agree. It's a lot of layers to it. Go ahead, Zed. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I don't want to interrupt or be a pain.
What is
I was saying, like, say? I think it's a lot of layers to it. And for me, like I said, I'm going to stick 10 toes down on it. 100%, Olay, I agree with what you're saying. But the type of people, there are people in this world that are okay until it hits their front door.
Yeah, that's most people.
Somebody was saying, like, the whole messenger situation. And I get it. This message actually is huge, where we know, and I wish that moment was a moment where the way that she did it, because when I saw the live, I felt every word that she was saying. I understood it. And for her to call out that specific thing, Charlamagne literally called me to tell me to push this particular thing. I'm like, yo, I pray that this thing brings itself to light, because Charlamagne has been problematic in this way for so long. And then when the opportunity presented itself, because I feel like when she wasn't around them, like, again, I don't know what's been told to them. As you said, as a lawyer, you can see that something contractual probably was said or whatever, where she's not allowed to make certain statements, especially in the room or at the radio station. But the day, like when I saw her, it wasn't even somebody crashing out. It was at this point like, okay, now y'all see me. I can't even work the way I need to work. Let me clear the room. But while I want to clear the room about Loren, it's really Charlamagne. And that's what I heard. And I'm like, this is perfect. Like, this is a perfect opportunity to have that conversation. But you get into the room and then you do the opposite. And that was my problem. But outside of that, I think her as a person, you're not that she deserves to have any bad things happening to her, but you don't give a damn until it hits your door. You don't care. You don't care. You don't have no issues about these things, but until it hits your door, now you get to speak about it. And no, I don't like that.
That's most people.
I don't.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these issues would be. I mean, speaking to Cam's question that he spoke to earlier, and a lot of what Delaney said, and even what you just said, Rebecca, a lot of these issues would be resolved if we knew how to qualify media well enough. And I'm not trying to take out all of the stuff we've talked about identity here, but so much of these issues, we're talking about why people watch this shit, why they do that. Look, I've said before that it feels like we're in a redux of the mid 2000s, 2005. 2005 was the breakthrough of conservative talk radio, and talk radio being such a big, like the resurgence of it, of people just saying wild shit in audio format, because wild shit got ears, got plays. It's how Sean Hannity came up. It's how Bill O'Reilly came up. It's how Tucker Carlson rebuilt his brand from an intern who got one on-air segment. All these people, Glenn Beck, like all these motherfuckers came up through this one way, right? And we're in the same similar situation. We just came off, not to bring this to positive, we just came off a presidential election with an unpopular war and a centrist candidate who won't say shit about the war, and the worst person just came back and made things worse, and the economy tanked after a information leak. It's the same thing. And every single time this happens, here we are with people saying wild shit in audio format and everybody looking. And the problem is, we can say that, okay, well, why the fuck do these things exist? And we do that, and we criticize it, and eventually we get that chance where it's like, oh, we shouldn't have this anymore. We should make like content that's more like varied and more understanding, and then it shifts back to this. The problem is people do not know how to qualify information. They look for reality TV. They look for mess. No Jumper is a great example. I know we're not talking about that right now, but No Jumper is a great example. You can draw a straight line from the Breakfast Club to No Jumper, because No Jumper like built this whole platform. Like, we're showcasing artists. Also, here's our CEO who's married to a porn star and starts shit with all of his employees, right? If you can't contextualize that, hey, these people are messy, so you need to put their entertainment in one place and the information you get from it in another, then you're going to keep having these problems happen. You're going to keep having Jess Hilarious come on there and people not being able to distinguish she's a bad person, but the patriarchy also feeds into this, but also she shouldn't complain about this shit, and then when she's in this, she shouldn't like talk shit, and then when she's in the situation, complain about it. You have to be consistent. You're not going to get that unless you can qualify media with some nuance.
I think, but nobody's about to. I think like the masses of people are not interested in qualifying media.
So
that's my point.
I think that's up for debate.
That's why we're here.
I think that's up for debate. Like, I think that's up for debate. We're all content creators, right? Can anybody here point to a piece they've done that deals with something tangentially related to media literacy that people actually decided to watch? I can. Like, I've done it. It's possible. So, like, are we shutting down alternatives for no reason? Or
no, that's not what I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that alternatives shouldn't exist. That's not what I'm saying. I think they absolutely should. What I am saying though is that I don't have any data on this. I don't have any empirical research, but I think anecdotally, if I go and I talk to 10 of my friends and I'm asking them like, and we're having a conversation, not my friends, but people maybe at the gym I go to, and we're talking about media, I don't think that they have an interest and feel interested in proactively searching for like perfect news. Like I don't think that. And I also think that
I agree.
What makes me what I think is a good strategy, if I'm honest, and I think he gets a lot of hate for it. I think it's really cool that Mark Lamont Hill is on the Joe Budden podcast. I think that's a really beautiful thing. Is to be
Is he on it permanently?
Yeah, he's on there.
It's to be
originally on only on like Fridays. He started off kind of on the Patreon, then only Fridays, and it seems he's kind of there.
I think that's an interesting strategy, is to see this audience of people that you know is being fed bullshit all the time and saying, you know what, I want to make an intervention, a cultural intervention. When Olay was on the Breakfast Club, I don't think that many people that are the audience of the Breakfast Club were prepared to hear the way that Olay was about to rip Eric Adams a new asshole. Like, I don't think that they were prepared for it.
I'm just saying, Olay made a man switch parties, bro.
And so I think what I'm saying is there are many strategies, and we should be trying to do a billion different things.
That's kind of what I was going to say. Like, I'm not trying to
infiltrate them.
I don't want niggas.
I agree with you.
I'm not trying to rid niggas of problematic media. Like, I want to be clear. I think there's a levels of it. There's some people I want like rid. I like that.
Like,
I don't
no jumper. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
or like all these
academics needs to go.
People and stuff like shouldn't have. There are a significant amount of people who shouldn't have platforms, and what they're doing is just outright destructive. But I'm not trying to get rid of all problematic media. I want to be clear. I don't think everybody has to watch 100% factual, intelligent analysis all the time. Shit, I don't want to watch shit all the time. Sometimes I'm not watching the Lernati, I'm watching the Lernati pop. Leave me alone with this. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that. I think what's important to what Delaney was saying, like what Cam is saying, is like, yeah, it's beautiful. I loved when Mark went on there because I don't have a problem. I know what ignorant nigga discussions are like, right? Like in real life, I have them. I go to my hair salon, people start saying all kind of foolishness and stuff, but I can navigate them in real life. Like, I know how to navigate this, how to talk to you, and also how to like tell you some of what I know you weren't thinking about. I think there needs to be somebody in the room, like, you know what I mean? Which is why I think like,
to help them navigate.
Great when they put. Yeah, I think
like a straight. I think Angela Yee was that mitigating force you were talking about.
No, she wasn't. No, she was. I don't agree. Angela Yee was not.
I've seen her try. I've seen her try to rein in the bullshit before.
Oh my God.
I've seen her try.
No, but that's why Jess would actually work for it, because I think that, like you were saying, you got Mark Lamont Hill on Joe Budden's podcast in two worlds, because it works for some of those people. It's real. Joe Budden's BS takes and topics is real, but then they get exposed to Mark Lamont, who can show them that. And I think that's
why I think Loren and Jess are good together. The problem is not them both being on the show. The problem is how these sexist, this patriarchy, this misogyny felt like they couldn't just have them genuinely be two co-hosts. Like, you couldn't just genuinely have two women. You had to create the appearance of freezing one out. You know what I mean? That's why like I said, it sometimes when we critique like the Breakfast Club, Jess Hilarious was well suited to the Breakfast Club, to what it is, to the audience and environment they were speaking to, right? Like they were. That's why we like Loren. You know what I mean? And so I said it to say, like, I don't think, it's not me trying to say that the Breakfast Club shouldn't exist or that these places shouldn't exist. And I've had these conversations with Charlamagne in real life. Like, and I know how he thinks of it. Charlamagne, our disagreement is, I don't think you should ever platform a Candace Owens. I don't think you need to be platforming Vivek Ramaswamy and all these Nikki Haley and all these right-wing supremacists. I don't think there's any value to be gotten out of it. I think you are purely legitimizing them and spreading their viewpoints to our communities. I fully view that. Charlamagne knows I think that. How he thinks about it is, he thinks, okay, well, if I have those people on and then the next week I have you, or have some kind of person like that, or whatever, you know what I mean? These voices. Versus, I think, again, I'm more in the Delaney perspective of, if you're gonna have ignorant talking ignorant shit in the room, have another, like, have somebody else that's going to, like a Mark Lamont Hill, somebody that's going to give something else to those audiences. It's not that I'm saying that people shouldn't have their problematic media and they shouldn't be able to hear the ignorant talk that they are used to and that they like and their worst thoughts, I guess. At least have another there to like.
No, that's you're right. That's why Jess is necessary. Well, that's why I believe outside of the BS, a Jess type person is necessary. That's why I know it's stupid, but her saying it's Jess with the mess and my news is real, that's because she knows people be feeling the same way. Like, she be saying things that people feel, like, even though it may be the most ignorant take. We know what it's like, family and friends we be around. Like you said, you at the hair salon. People be having the worst take, so she speaks for those people. But then you got somebody in the room that can actually give the facts and something that is, in a media literate type of way. I'm not saying that what Jess does, it's I wouldn't say Instagram. It's content creation literate people. She knows how to do that. She knows how to grab the audience. She knows how to do those type of things. Then you have this one who will go and do the research and do some interviews and know how to speak to the people who are in the room, know how to give the questions and stuff like that. It's fine.
The Job Is Mine,
I think
huh? Did you see The Job Is Mine?
I seen it and I hated it because
I loved it. I thought it was hilarious.
No, I thought it was funny, but I thought they couldn't even, not that they had to sing. You know how I get about that. Not that they had to sing. But
did y'all see it? Delaney Cam said, okay, hold on, I have to show it to y'all then. Because I can tell by Delaney's face that she's completely unfamiliar, but I need her reaction. I need to see it.
Yeah. It wasn't I like the idea of it though. I watched it. I like the idea of it. But
I just want to say one thing really quick. Is that
Job Is Mine official music video?
Yeah.
By the Breakfast Club.
What you say, Delaney?
What I just want to say really quickly is that I think that like the reason why I like that Mark Lamont Hill is on the Joe Budden podcast is because I like for them to be told that they are wrong. Yeah. I like for people to intervene.
Like, let me be clear.
Like I'm not like, oh, we need like so many opinions. No. I think that people need
somebody gotta tell you.
They've got to say, like, I need people to be in the room to say, actually, I know 1 million people are watching this and they agree with you and you're all wrong. 1 million of you are wrong. That is what I like. I don't think that Loren is providing that. I don't think she does because I think.
No, she doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think
she
is.
I was going to say this, again, I've been trying to keep it away from like Loren and Jess, like, you know, the larger thing, because again, the unfortunate part about stuff like this is how patriarchy works is, again, niggas celebrating Loren now, but if Jess left there tomorrow, they would be on her fucking ass. And like, the reality is she's 100%. Not like, just because she is, she is a foil to or an opposite or an antithesis of what Jess is, but she is not a disruptor either. She's going to be
not.
Because you there's only so much you could disrupt your job. You know what I mean? You gotta be in the room. It's like, it's their show. It pre-exists. They have their character and their environment and what the audience is. In order for you to be liked there, you know what I mean? You have to play the game. That's the reason why. And if you don't play the game, you end up miserable, like Melissa is on the Joe Budden podcast. You getting beat up on by the you know what I mean?
You're right.
I have to show y'all this video. I'm showing this to y'all right now.
It was the keys for me.
I loved it. I thought it was
the key. The notes was on
my favorite was the run where they do just one note but just slightly softer as it goes on. The job is
musically very rough.
And I said, girl, what?
Musically rough.
But this is when I saw that, I was like, see, that's why I can't. This is why my
reality,
because they
the
all
reality TV-fication. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's an element of it where it is real, and you are looking at what could be an actionable lawsuit for employment discrimination. But at the same time, and again, it's funny because I feel like they all took this like page out of the No Jumper verse, and I don't get it because I feel like the No Jumper verse has been floundering. So I just don't understand why they're all doing.
Y'all hate it.
I'm not even, and you know what's crazy thing? I'm not No Jumper's audience.
Can we just do an episode where we hate on No Jumper? Because I'm so down for that. I don't
engage. No Jumper is not even a world that I even engage in to hate. Like, let me put it to you this way: like, the Breakfast Club is at least something. Like, I know have all their opinions about the Breakfast Club, all the critiques, and many of them are valid. However, I respect like something that has been in existence since 2011. Like, when you think about it like this. Especially in content creation and media, people don't watch interviews. Like, it's the least performing kind of content and stuff like that. They don't watch them. But if someone goes to the Breakfast Club, that's where people are tuning in. Like, I at least appreciate that it's something that has become a cultural staple. And before I wasn't always a 31-year-old educated. I was in high school and I loved me some Wendy and I liked the Breakfast Club and you know what I mean? So I have a different level of an appreciation for the Breakfast Club. And I think the Breakfast Club at least tries to be, the Breakfast Club to me is in a different stratosphere from No Jumper.
Yeah.
No Jumper.
Say that nothing, I mean, the way my day brightened when I read the headline that No Jumper is broke. I mean, guys, I am like the glee that I feel, like nobody can bring me down. And Adam,
I've never seen a clip.
is nuts. I don't know if y'all read a piece on TV, who's like a brilliant journalist at Rolling Stone, wrote a piece about Adam 22 and his weird ass. Everybody needs to read that. Shameless plug. But he's nuts. And No Jumper dissolving, I think
are they not together anymore?
It might move our community forward. It might move our society forward.
I mean, they held so much of like, they're like the Newsmax of hip hop, I feel like, because they held so much. Like if academic,
I've never seen a thing.
They pretty much
the
whole mumble rap like movement. Lil Pump, Lil Peep, Smoke Perp. They broke all of them, and for a while they were really great at breaking sound. But then eventually that wasn't the trend anymore, and they just got increasingly more messier people.
Yeah, I don't mind I like that. That's the thing. It's like No Jumper. No, I know too much. I do too much research on everybody's verses because I know like New Jumpers had like several iterations, right? Like originally Adam 22 used to do like his biker shit, and then he kind of broke into this No Jumper space of doing interviews. I think did he have like the first like XX Tentacion like big interview before he broke or something like that?
He broke X. He broke
X. So he, like there are things like that, but they went a crime reality TV-fication like hot mess, because Adam 22, I mean, you could listen, not to a credit, but at least like this is somebody says it, you can hear from these people. Adam 22 is concerned about money. Like he originally did the biker thing that when that stopped being as lucrative, he switched over to kind of like hip hop, that stopped being. He has talked about it publicly. Like No Jumper is not as lucrative as it was like in 2020 versus now, and that's why he does porn now. You know what I mean? That's why he makes most of his money doing his porn, his plug talk. Rebecca, you ain't know that?
What? Now he does
porn. He is a porn
podcast. You missed like last year or the year before. All it was talking about was him letting his wife. It was stupid.
His wife is a porn star. He's the Ed McMahon of. He's the Ed McMahon
too. Adam 22 is interested in money, and he's interested in allegedly sexually assaulting his employees. That is what he is interested in.
Employees?
I remember this story. I remember this.
2023. The employee. I didn't know it was the employees. I've heard about like the young girls.
The employees portion.
Multiple employees.
Oh, I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
That is news to me. Look at Delaney here trying to ruin everybody.
This guy sucks.
No, that's the story that I heard about a guy named Adam 22.
No, I knew he clapped on white supremacists. I knew he exploited the culture. I knew he egged on crime and danger and real street activities. I knew he was a lot of fucked up things, but I didn't know about sexually assaulting employees. I knew about statutory raping little girls, but I didn't know.
Freak derogatory. Like he is not. It is bad news. Like.
And they pulled his YouTube or something because of it, or something like that. It was a whole
thing. I'm praying on his downfall, like praying.
You know what?
I think it's already in motion. He's not doing very well.
And I wish I could speed it up. If there's something I can do to speed it up, that's what I want to do.
But Delaney is a true hater, and I love her for it. Delaney we can't wait. As soon as I see Delaney do this.
No, what you said about Mark Lamont.
I think the next thing, get Adam 22 and pop the balloon, and then have all the balloons pop as soon as he walks on.
Oh my God.
No, Delaney, you cracked me up when you said no. I just want to clarify that I'm not saying that there's some kind of like Mark Lamont being on the Joe Budden show, like, for them to, no, I want him to go and tell them niggas they wrong.
Yeah.
That's it. Somebody got to tell they wrong.
I do love Mark being up there. I love Mark just because Mark don't give a shit about what, like, Mark will go anywhere and he don't give a shit what the audience talking about, because it ain't like that audience is learning. They be in them comments like, pandering simp, you ain't had no daddy, you must have had a single mother, you got these bitches.
Literally,
because don't get no bitches.
When you're principled, it doesn't matter where you're at. Like when you have principles,
he's not afraid.
You're like, okay, and what now? Like, and what? You're still a misogynist. Cool.
Like
they don't have that.
Let me tell you, it's
Club.
Such a bait. It is. I be feeling. I can't even. And let me say this, since we're talking about our feelings on these shows, let me just make sure I put this on record. I am not so mature or anything or intelligent or progressive that I didn't love the first era of the Joe Budden podcast. The Rory and Mal era of the Joe Budden podcast was my shit. No, I'm sorry. I loved it. I'm up there with the that are like, I didn't watch podcasts. I loved it. Okay, I went to my public defender's office every day, kicked my legs up on the desk, and ate my breakfast watching it before I go to court. Like, I loved the Rory and Mal era of the Joe Budden podcast. You want to talk? And was invested. When he fired them, I was in my house outraged. Okay, like, how dare you? I couldn't believe it. Also saw that come in because you could have seen, their energies deflate. So I said that to say, like, if you could go in these environments when you're principal, it's one thing. I've said this to people, like, it's one thing to make a one-off appearance where you could kill it and say what you got to say and do well and go and keep your energy. But to go somewhere repeatedly being beat up on or whatever is draining. Like, I when people be talking about Melissa, I'd be like, I feel so bad. So, because I'm like, I know what it's like to be on a show as a woman and hate it there and then break your spirit and you be over it and you start performing. I'm Rebecca, I know. I motherfucking know. So I'm like, bruh, every time she opened her mouth, she got a group of rabid, dumb who are in the majority going at her. And it doesn't matter how dumb and wrong they are because they all think that way. And so it's all them in the room barking down her throat, and then they have a stupid audience who agree.
Have y'all seen that meme? The meme that's like, but it's about women, but it's like two stupid girls telling each other exactly.
Yes,
that's what that's like. It's like big idiots going, yeah, bro, yeah, bro, yeah, bro.
My main thought is always, who are these dudes?
Every time I watch women don't need periods, and they be like, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have periods. Why do they got periods, bro? Why? Why? With no science behind it, with nothing, no kind of nothing, and they just be like, yeah.
There's this one guy on TikTok. I know we don't watch TikTok, but there's one guy on TikTok who just finds these male podcasts and just like, as they say something stupid, just unplugs it and it unplugs the fucking he has like the audio mixer. He's like they're mixing the audio, and unplugs it. And there was one podcast he came on where they were like, oh yeah, man, actually, water is not good for your body. It actually is gonna, it's actually destructive, right?
They're pandering at this point. They have to be.
Like, what?
I didn't watch
How did we get there?
Cam is like, I've already removed myself from this kind of toxic media, so it's even crazy. Cam is like, what? This shit is crazy. Cam is like, this is why.
Look, like
not for my mind.
I'm a human. I watch shit that's not, perfectly educational.
What's your guilty pleasure, Cam? What do you watch that you're ashamed of?
I'm ashamed of? That's a stretch.
I think we watch things for very different things if you're watching things that you're ashamed of.
Yeah, if I watch things I'm ashamed of, that we're probably moving into the porn discussion because I am a heterosexual man. But I have a girlfriend and I watch less of it these days. Anyway, got to get that on record.
Hey, let's give it up for Cam.
Yeah, but no, I don't watch anything.
So pretty, y'all have the cutest couples pictures.
Nothing I'm actively ashamed of. I can't claim that. That's not but I do watch things that are not perfectly educational, not kind of mindless. People just talking to a camera about whatever.
What's your slop content? What's your slop content?
Well, my first ever video was about MLMs. I watch these white women talk about MLMs all the time. And it's
multi-level marketing, like Herbalife and
and they're all former
slop content. Cam,
they're essentially pyramid schemes, but they're all former participants, and they've tried to build YouTube careers bashing multi-level marketing companies now. And they're not good creators. There's no production value, but it's just my guilty pleasure just watching them talk to the camera about really nothing.
That is so weird.
Yeah.
No, that is.
It is.
2020. It is. But that is weird. That's a weird thing to do.
That's hilarious.
No, that's how I broke on YouTube. My first ever video was a black man talking about multi-level marketing cults. And
I was like,
but you were ripping them a new one.
I was like, that was consistent to me with what you do. That's what I expect you to be doing, Cam.
Yeah,
I'm like, see, Cam, that's not even.
That's not weird.
Watch it.
Cam, I respect your truth, okay, Cam?
Watch the episode of Pop the Balloon that came out last week. That is my homework for everybody. Watch that. Okay. Not this week's is a little. Well, actually, this week's is pretty good.
The next Olay and Friends I'm on, Delaney's got to be there, and she's got to start with a quiz. Like, all right, what did the first?
What was their name?
What was their name? Why did the third girl pop her balloon?
On this episode last week. Okay, I watched.
You know what, Delaney? I'll watch it for you.
Will you really?
I'll watch Pop the Balloon.
How many outfit alone?
I'll watch it.
Okay, that is a beautiful place for us to wrap this show with Cam promising to watch Pops in the Wood. Audience, please hold
Cam,
into it.
Cam, can you do a react video?
We need a report.
Can we do a react? Can you do a react video to it? You gotta make react content to it too, dude.
I don't do that, but we'll see. I'll do
Cam,
what I can.
You see Cam?
It's the first time. It's the first time for everything.
I don't do niggas.
I'll join you. I'm active. When I watch it, Olay can tell you, when I watch it, the people be coming out, they'll say one thing, I'll be like, Pop.
When I'm forced to watch it, I do the same thing. I'm active. I'm like, girl, you don't even.
Pop.
Hey everybody, quick little announcement. Your girl was nominated for a Webby Award, okay? They nominated me in social impact for all of my work on Illuminati and the Illuminati-verse, and I would love it if you voted for me. I have the link in the description below, so if you could just drop what you're doing right quick and vote for your girl, I would appreciate that. The Illuminati-verse is huge and always expanding, so let me tell you where to find everything. Subscribe to my main channel, Illuminati, to find my Illuminati productions, which are my long-form video essays, my deep dives. You can also join the main channel, Illuminati, to get access to my exclusive show, Olay and Chill, and my backlog of content like Iconic and Illuminati Joints are all on the main channel. Subscribe to my new channel, Illuminati Politics, so you don't miss my interviews with Brad Lander and Zoran Mamdani, who are running for New York City Mayor, as well as my State of the Union type addresses that I do with my O Squareds, and any explicitly political content I have planned for you going forward. Subscribe to Illuminati Pop for all my TV and movie takes, reviews, and breakdowns. We have all the fun over there, and we also have a Patreon for Illuminati Pop where you can get all the videos uncensored. Subscribe to Olay and Friends for my podcast, Olay and Friends. Subscribe to Illuminati Bites if you want my takes but don't have an hour plus to spend. And last but not least, subscribe to my Substack Illuminati for all my writing.